Okay. My portion of this presentation is merely to introduce Elaine Clegg, specialist for Idaho Smart Growth. She's here to present what we were awarded last summer, and that was a Idaho Smart Growth Technical Assistance Grant for the siting of schools to develop a plan for the siting of schools and other public facilities. So Elaine put together a work plan. She's here to work through, make a presentation, and then hopefully get some facilitation in there as well. So Elaine, welcome, and we look forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. As you look at the work plan, we're actually a little bit late. This presentation probably should have come in October, but for a variety of reasons, including the fact that the school board had an election in October, and all of you had an election, this is probably a better time anyway. So hopefully you'll accept that. What I'd like to do tonight, I think you all received in your packet a copy of paper, a document that I prepared with the help of an organization that works on policies nationally, particularly policies related to health and safe routes to school. And that document talks about how to site both schools and other public facilities in a way that is healthier for the people, because those things are sited in places that people can get to by walking and biking, and that you consider those on a community-wide basis before you actually buy land or figure out, put a proposal forward for a specific thing. Now, I know that both the school district here and the city here already have various pieces of land. There's already been a lot of talk over the years about various new facilities on those pieces of land. So recognizing that, hopefully this presentation tonight and the plan that we hope comes out of it will allow all of you to go forward with the pieces of land that you already have in a way that maybe the whole community can get behind. Hopefully those of you who need a bond passed to get some of this stuff done, if you have community support, it would lead to that. And that would be the idea. So some of you have seen some of this presentation previously. If it's a repeat for you, I hope you'll forgive me, but some of you have not, so I wanted to make sure that everyone started from kind of the same page. So there is a federal transportation law, and the project that I'm working on is actually paid for with money from that grant program. And it was designed because there's a recognition that across the country there is a growing problem of kids not being able to walk to school. Idaho receives $1 million a year. At least 70% of that goes to engineering solutions. Moscow has been the recipient of a couple of those new sidewalk projects. And the rest of it goes to either education, encouragement, or enforcement. The technical assistance that I've been able to offer comes through that 10 to 30% portion. So why would we do this? Well, it used to be that well over 40% of kids walked or biked to school. Now that percentage, this actually is a little bit dated, that percentage, the latest I've seen, is down to about 12 or 13%. The biggest change on the other side of the ledger is that students who used to live near schools now don't. So most students used to live with less than a mile from their school. Today, most students live more than 2 miles from their school. It's pretty hard to walk or bike if you're that far away. And that's happened because schools have moved to those distant locations. So hopefully what this planning process would do would be to help Moscow understand, as they do try to site some new schools, how to do so in a way that would take into account where the students live and try to make them walkable and bikeable to the extent they can. And the same is true for parks or libraries or community centers. Another piece of the cause is the way we've built our infrastructure. I know that Moscow's been working hard on a complete streets project and some other projects that are leading you to make some fixes to that infrastructure. I know Walter talked about the sidewalk project he worked on, or recommendations he worked on as Transportation Commissioner. All of those are important pieces of this. Another piece of the problem is that we've changed the pattern in which we develop our communities from one where uses are mixed up together on a street network that's connected to one where uses are separated on a street network that's separated. That is another issue that makes it very difficult to walk and bike, not just to schools, but to commercial areas, to see your friends, to do anything. Here's a specific example in Idaho. Let's see, do I have a button here? I don't know, is there we go. So here's the center of the city of Eagle, Idaho, and that's the original school site. You can see most of the residential development, the new residential development, has been built to the east, a little bit to the south. The two new school sites, junior high and high school, got sited to the west. There's about 10 houses within walking distance of the junior high, and there's only 5 within walking distance of the new high school. Another issue is that they have open campus, and so these kids get in their car at noon every day, zoom down the highway, come into town, grab lunch, and zoom back out. There's been a number of accidents, all kinds of things happening at that lunch hour. It's become a pretty dangerous place. Why did they do this? Well, that's where the cheap land was. That's where big sites were available. And so it made sense to them to do it because they wanted to have sites where they could have all of the athletic fields together, all of those things. But in essence, they're forcing every one of the students to travel every day so that they could have those athletic fields on the same site. Might not have been the best choice. There might be a better way to do it. So there's some consequences from this. I talked about the traffic in Eagle. In addition to that, a lot of times parents end up driving to and from school. And when that happens, there's a lot of congestion around the school. That creates peak hour trips that make you, force you into decisions about whether or not to widen roads because the congestion is so bad. It also increases the incidence of asthma and chronic diseases around schools. Most of you know we have an obesity epidemic in this country. At the same time that kids are becoming much more overweight, they're also walking much less. Idaho's not immune to this. Although these are adult figures, the childhood figures, from what we know, mirror these. You can see that Idaho adult obesity is keeping up with the nationwide average. That's not good news. That means that 25% of the adults in Idaho today are obese. That doesn't portend well for our future health care costs. Diabetes is another result of this. We used to know type 2 diabetes as adult onset diabetes. It's now type 2 because we see it so much in children. Children who get type 2 diabetes tend to have much shorter lifespans, and they deal with many chronic problems their whole life. And again, their health care costs go up dramatically. We also have kids who are losing independence. They have to be driven everywhere. They lose the ability to make those small decisions every day. They lose the ability to just go visit friends on their own. And then when they turn 16, we hand them a set of car keys and expect them to be able to handle that responsibility. And sometimes that doesn't work out so well. So we think there are some solutions. We have land use agencies in you who can do things with the community pattern and also with your comp plan. The school district, who is doing some facility planning right now, can look at some of the issues that we talked about in that planning and also do that collaboratively with you. And everyone can continue to talk about complete streets, and hopefully everyone can talk about how to share public facilities, not just schools and cities, but certainly in this instance you've got a county with some needs and some land. You've got other entities, recreation districts, so forth, that might be interested, transportation agencies. So in your power are some of these next issues. Convenient mixed-use communities. We like to say that that's smart growth. Well, what is it? You already have quite a bit of it, frankly. Your downtown area is quite dense and compact. It's got a diverse mix of uses, and the street network and streetscape design are very friendly to pedestrians. And within that area, there's a lot of destinations that people can walk to. It's not quite so true on the edges of town, and that's one thing you might want to keep in mind as you cite facilities, that the closer you can get it to the places where it's already walkable, the more likely you're going to have a group of people who can walk to things. Density is a part of it. This one on the upper right is actually a Moscow development. Single-family housing can be quite dense if it's done in a little bit different design than is typical. All of these two are both detached single-family. These are single-family housing that happen to be attached in a courtyard pattern. And this is a 6-unit building in a group with other 6-unit buildings, but most of it is either young professionals or retirees in this particular instance. So you can increase density in it. When you do that, it affects the way people travel. So up at the top of this graph, you have 1 unit per acre. And people who live at 1 unit per acre travel on average about 30,000 miles a year. And you can see about here where it's 7 or 8 units per acre, which is about the density of a good downtown area around a town like Moscow. People travel half as much, 15,000 miles a year. A big reason for that is that they're able to walk and bike more. Some of their trips are on foot or by bike, and in some instances they take much shorter trips than they would if they live at the lower densities. Diverse patterns, again, you have a great mix of uses downtown. You have a couple of areas emerging on different parts of town where you're beginning to have a mix of uses that serve more of a neighborhood scale. Those are things that you might want to look at increasing. Network pattern is a really important piece of this. There's a lot of research that's been done that shows that travel behavior in the network on the left is much different than travel behavior in the network on the right. People are extremely more likely to walk or bike if you have a connected, compact network than if you don't. As you can see, there's the same uses in both of these, same amount of land, probably not the same density of uses, but because of the way the network is designed, it's much more difficult to use the network on the right by foot or by bike than it is on the left. There are some really interesting requirements in the Local Land Use Planning Act that I think cities could take better advantage of in terms of siting schools and other public facilities. You have some policies in your current plan that begin to take advantage of those. There are 2 specific ones that relate to schools, and in the schools section it asks that cities document school growth, expected school growth, and also transportation considerations. You have a lot of transportation, good goals in your transportation portion of your current comprehensive plan. I think you could take even better advantage of that, but that's the one place where I think you have a lot of strength. You don't have much in the way of school analysis. I didn't find any school enrollment figures or projected growth, and you haven't talked about new sites, potential new sites for schools, although you have identified areas that are underserved on the southern part of town. You have mapped where the schools are, and that's a good first step, but I think you could go further on that piece. In those strong transportation goals, you've done a good job. You've mapped safety routes for schools and identified that if you can fix the safety problems on those routes, then you can save the school district money by eliminating some busing routes. You have an objective to assist schools in providing efficient and safe access to school locations. So you've got good policy support for beginning to work with the schools and with yourselves for siting facilities in a place that's walkable and bikeable. You've got already objectives and goals to promote walking and biking and to prioritize sidewalk installation near schools. So all of those are very supportive of taking, I think, the next step. This is a big slide with a lot of words on it. I just brought this up to show you that in your existing zoning, when you have a conditional use permit, these are the kinds of conditions that you can require. And these kinds of conditions, when applied specifically to school siting, could offer the opportunity for both you and the city to have some certainty in what you're looking for in school sites. Schools are conditional use in your zoning code in all instances. In commercial instances, they have a further requirement about parking and traffic assessment. And I would suggest that you could take it a next step and work with the school district to prepare a specific list of things that you'd look for in a school site so that both of you would know in that conditional use what it is you're expected to do. As I said, I don't know why that didn't pop up. Sorry about that. Schools are conditional use in all of your zoning categories, and if you do prepare this more specific list of what things you'd be looking for in that, you could do things like this kind of school assessment site assessment that's already happening, and hopefully begin to avoid or decrease the amount of congestion you're getting around the schools at drop-off and pickup time. There's an interesting provision in the local land use plan that allows cities to develop what's called a future acquisitions map. Most cities around the state don't take advantage of it. This is a plan that was developed by the city of Meridian. They had extended a new sewer trunk line into this 10 square mile area, and in doing so recognized that that was going to promote a lot of growth in that area. And so they did a more specific plan for that area called the North Meridian Plan, and in that plan they actually talked about where schools would be sited and why they'd be sited in particular places. They made a decision that elementary schools should be sited interior to each of the square miles so that students didn't have to cross the arterials to get to them, and that the junior highs and high schools would be sited in places where they could provide good transit, bicycle, and pedestrian accessibility. These black lines on here are the pathway plan for Meridian, so to the extent possible those schools were also sited on that pathway system. They didn't go as far as actually publishing a future acquisitions map, but if they had, what that means is that, and this goes for your own facilities as well, once you've put them on that future acquisitions map, because you've already gone through a siting process, you've already developed the criteria by which you would site them, then when those sites come up for development, the development permitting process can be streamlined quite a bit. And so there's some incentive, I think, to approach it this way. If you're interested, we can think about writing that into whatever plan you might adopt for how you approach this. So the way to accomplish this would be to coordinate with your school district and with other agencies beyond the school district that you might be interested in doing some joint planning with. One of the things I noticed is that you have quite an extensive chapter in your comprehensive plan on parks and park siting and the things you're looking at to be able to do that. And something along those lines, perhaps not quite as detailed, might be really valuable on school sites as well. You might also want to think about including schools even more fully in your transportation planning. You've cited a lot of goals about how you would serve schools, but so far haven't worked with the school district to make sure that they have those same goals and are working toward the same ends. I'm now going to talk a little bit more about what the school district might do, but I think that you would find it interesting. I hope that you do. And whatever school member long-range planning task force members are here, I hope that the This will be instructive for you as well. So when schools begin to look at siting new facilities, these are the things that they should, we think, given the research that we've done, that they should be looking at. That they should be looking to the extent possible to find sites within walking and biking distance of the majority of the students who are going to attend that school. That they should work in a collaborative process to meet community-wide needs and not just their own needs. And that means infrastructure, all kinds of things beyond what the school might otherwise normally think about in their own process. There's some obstacles to planning this way, given the way that schools have been sited in the recent past. Small schools have become a burden to a lot of school districts. They're more expensive per capita to serve, and so many school districts have chosen to close small schools and consolidate them into larger ones. But there are some hidden costs to doing that. Beyond the community costs of losing that community center, oftentimes there are busing costs or other costs associated with a consolidated school that aren't taken into account during the planning process. In Boise, these two schools that I just showed were both slated to be closed and consolidated. The community worked together with the school district and said, we really like our schools, we want them to stay open, what can we do to help? For a period of time, those two schools shared administrators, shared janitorial staff, shared some other things, helped reduce the administrative costs, while they began adopting some magnet focus programs to get the enrollment at each school up to the point where they could then again split those costs off. And both schools, the school district invested a fair amount of money in both schools to make sure that the facility was up to snuff in terms of modern standards for technology. And both schools are very healthy schools today, among the top ones in the district.